It's time to strap our boots on. This is a perfect day to die. Wipe the blood out of our eyes. In this life there's no surrender, and there's nothing left for us to do. Find the strength to see this through. We are the ones who will never be broken. With our final breath, we'll fight to the death. We are soldiers, we are soldiers.
Hey everybody, it's Daphne with Laura Entertainment. We are sitting down with Trevor Sherwood. How are you doing, Trevor?
I'm doing great, Daphne. Thank you for asking. How are you today?
Uh, well, a little bit about what just happened anyway. Exhausted other than that, constantly working, so you never know,
I hear you. It's been a hectic
day by
week.
day thing. So, interviews with soldiers. Tell me about your time. What did you do in the armed forces?
So I spent 4 years in the Army. The first three were with regular active duty Army. That included one tour to Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom 2. And then a year and a half later, I volunteered to go back in with the National Guard unit for the sake of deploying to help them out. And I went back to Iraq for OIF 8, I believe it was. And
Wow.
that was in a place called, we just called it Q West. I couldn't pronounce it. It was like El Chiara West.
Oh my God. So, what was that like for you?
I mean, the first time it was eye-opening. It was definitely a new experience. I was like a 22-year-old kid, 21, I think, when I went, and was still kind of getting used to life. Never really left home, and now here I am on another continent, in the desert. And I grew up, in Michigan, so I was used to all the cold winters, and I was like, oh, thought I knew what cold was. Got stationed in Germany, discovered what cold was, and then I went from there to Iraq, where I discovered what heat was. And
Wow.
it
Yeah,
was
I
an
heard
interesting
Germany
thing.
gets cold.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's beautiful in the summer, but the winter, it's brutal.
Wow. Yeah, my son, I think he was in Germany. That or they drove to Germany or something like that. And it was winter because it was New Year's and they had shot off fireworks and he sent me the video for the New Year's, which was cool. I was like, man, that place is pretty over there.
Oh, Germany is a beautiful country. Like, I mean, you can go from modern architecture to like medieval in the blink of an eye, and then back to modern again. Like it's seamless. It's just kind of crazy how they built the place. Like some of the old historic buildings are still there, and they just built modern stuff around them, but they left the historic stuff. And it's really neat.
See, well, I love historical buildings and old. I see stuff in buildings that, I mean, there are probably only a few people out there that see, you know what I mean? And the architecture in some of the places, even in the cities over here, but like the Colosseum, that place is gorgeous. Rome, Europe, Italy. I haven't been there yet, but I hope to go there eventually.
I'm
if
in that same boat. I really want to go over to see Rome.
Yeah, and when he had sent me pictures from Poland and Germany, and I can't remember where else he went because my son's in the army also. Um, I was like, damn, a little jealous. Not gonna lie, but I know he was there doing a job, so it wasn't like it was a vacation. Even though when they get their time off, their couple of days, they get to leave base, so they get to go and hang out and party and stuff in the cities, which is fun. He ended up getting robbed, but that was kind of on him. you know, it was a wallet thing. But I mean, so you did 2 tours.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. My God, man, I'm telling you, I love my soldiers. I love all my soldiers. And a lot of people don't realize that, if it wasn't for our soldiers, we would not be able to do anything that we do now. They don't get it. So I feel like they don't show you guys enough appreciation. There's a lot of people, the government especially, you're fighting for them. So they need to show you guys a little bit more appreciation. That's the way I feel about it. And I'll call them out. I don't care. You know, what are they gonna do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Use
I
me
hear you.
more?
My experiences with the Army weren't the best. It just turns out the units I kinda got unfortunate with the units that I got, and, they weren't the best, and I don't know, and it's not even all the prices you pay when you're in, it's the stuff when you're out too, like, people don't realize that tab is still coming in, like, I mean, I'm having health issues now, it's preventing me from doing certain things, like, I mean, I was telling you, I was a professional wrestler right up until the month before I left for the Army, I just won my championship,
Wow.
and that was something I couldn't do again after I got out of the Army because I got blew up by a mortar round, and I ended up getting a pinched nerve in the lower left side of my back, and before it didn't seem so bad, but over the years it's gotten worse and worse. And I still get exercise, but every so often it flares up. My left leg goes numb. I've actually been told I needed a knee replacement at the age of 36, 35, and they wouldn't do it until I'm 55. So I'm still rolling on a bad knee. I actually had to go to my congressman to get a civilian doctor to do surgery, and even that didn't fix it completely. That just kind of made it where I could walk.
Wow.
Now I'm kind of overweight again. Like I got all the way down to 168 pounds right up until my knee gave up the ghost. And then all the weight just came back on. Like I was still eating clean. And like I went from 210 all the way down to 168, lost 40 pounds.
That's skinny
And
for a guy. I
it's lightweight. I mean, I was healthy shape. If I had been like a professional MMA fighter, that's pretty much where I would have had to have been. But it's long term, it's very hard to keep it. But
Why 55? Why won't they do the surgery before 55?
so the way they explained it to me was they can only do that surgery twice, something about how the ligaments are connected, and they only last between 10 to 20 years. And, when I hear the VA tell me that, I think, okay, VA 10 years because they're going to use the cheapest of whatever they can get. And so they're like, oh, you could still be alive when you're 85. And I'm like, yeah, but when I'm 85, I'm going to be happy watching paint dry on a wall in an old folks' home. I'm like, "If none of the males in my family make it much past 70. I'm like, I'd rather live now while I've still got a little bit of energy to me. And so I still try to do things. I do some light stunt work in films. I do a lot of fight coordinating, things like that. I am a martial artist, so I still train, but I'm routinely training in lighter and lighter arts. I don't do anything with contact or sparring anymore. That all ended about 6, 7 years ago. And when the knee gave up the ghost, so I've been very careful. But I was fortunate enough I earned 2 black belts, and I love doing that now, and I love teaching people and helping them with the fight scenes in the films and such. And that's
Yeah.
been a thing. That's kind of making up for the pro wrestling that I can't do anymore. And in fact, I'm just now actually getting a documentary here. I've already done one shoot of it. We've got to go back for the second final shoot on my pro wrestling career and me as a person.
Yeah.
Trying, I don't know if it's going to happen or not. Trying to come out of retirement for one match only. Very careful.
Yeah.
Like I still have to. I've done a few light testing, and I'm okay at taking a couple of falls and stuff. So it'll be a pretty
Yes.
low risk match, but if it does happen.
Who did you wrestle with?
Superior Wrestling Alliance was the last group I worked for up in Michigan. I did sneak in one match in Germany before I got all the injuries. I was dealing with a knee injury, but it didn't bother me too much during the match. But that was XCW in Germany, I think. Most of the groups I wrestled with aren't around anymore. Like I never made it to WWE or anything like that. I had friends that worked for them, but I
Yeah.
never got quite that far. I was too young.
I wrestled. Oh my god, no, I did not. I managed a wrestler, Kenny Hendricks from the WWF.
I remember Kenny Hendricks.
Yeah.
I remember he was there. It seemed like a year or two. He was kind of brief, but where they gave him a little bit of a push. But I remember Kenny Hendricks.
He's still wrestling.
Wow, he's still
Yeah,
working the indies, huh?
he did a retirement. It's funny that you said that there was a retirement match that they had done over the weekend, and he made this video and put it out there that he's working out. I'm like, man, this man, he just loves wrestling. You
I
know?
miss the industry.
Wow.
I mean, it was my life. It was what I wanted to do for a living, and then just the injuries. It wouldn't have been safe for me to come back and work. Like even this one match, if I do it, it's going to be very low risk. Practicing. I just reached out to a couple of different people, including WWE's Gangrel, to see if they would work with me to help knock the rust off and make sure it's safe for me to climb back in there because I'd rather find out working in a gym than in a show. I have a place that's willing to let me do it down here, and it's one of the WWE's training grounds. In fact,
Mhm.
I think they just got bought out by WWE, and their champion is actually a friend of mine that's done stunts and films with me. So I would be doing a tag team match with him just in case something does go wrong. Like if my left leg goes numb and I can't perform, I can at least tag out and still, put together a halfway decent match. And
Maybe
it's just a chance
you
for me to go
connected
out on my own terms.
with
What's that?
Kenny. I said, "Maybe we can get you connected with Kenny." He also owns a gym, so he does a
That would
lot
be
of cooking
fantastic.
stuff,
I'd
and
really appreciate that.
yeah, we'll talk about that afterwards, but yeah, maybe I can get you, hooked up with him because he's still doing it, and like I said, they did the retirement match for, like, the older wrestlers, which was cool, which really wish that, like, he lived a little closer than he does. That way there I could have went to, some of the things that he does, but you know how this industry is, everybody's scattered all over the place.
Oh yeah.
I really think it's funny when people ask me, "Are you do you live in LA? Are you from LA? Um, are you calling me from L?" No, I am not. I'm not gonna live in LA. I don't wanna live in LA. You couldn't pay me. I grew up in Las Vegas. I loved Vegas, but once you're back here and your roots and stuff are here, then it's a whole you don't want to move. And especially after what I've been hearing, LA's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but the prices out there are ridiculous. Like, what are you charging for? Why are you charging so much? You're just another fucking state, you know? That's the
I have friends that moved out to LA and like they're paying a fortune. Like thankfully they ended
yeah,
up getting professional jobs working with guys like Jackie Chan and stuff doing stunt work.
yeah.
And it's nuts, but even Bridget Baby Doll Riley is a good friend of mine. She's down here in Naples, and even she was like, "I love LA, but I hate LA." And I've seen parts of it are beautiful, but other
Mhm.
parts of it, there's severe homeless problems. There is
Yeah,
just it's and in a city that has so much money going through it, it's crazy to think that because there are billions of dollars in the film industry down there. Like and I've got friends now that are debating about it. They finally ended up moving to Atlanta because it's like new LA, but it doesn't have all the issues with the high cost and there's still plenty of work there and they're
yeah.
really loving it in Atlanta. So that's
I
kind of the new hot ticket now.
One second. Alexa, turn off notifications. Sorry.
That's okay.
I have so much stuff that I do that it got to the point where, getting an intern is kind of hard. So it's just like the only intern I have is Alexa, and it pops off at the weirdest times.
I
Like,
my buddy Dave, who served with me in my first year, he rents a room from me here, and he installed one of those Alexa speakers in the kitchen, and I'm so used to not having any of that around the house. And like
yeah.
one day I was out there and I turned on the sink and I started washing, all of a sudden music just started playing, and I'm looking around, I'm like, "What the hell is that?" I didn't
Take
know
your
because it was
house
a
is
tiny little speaker.
haunted.
I know I was like freaking out. I was like, "Dave, why is my kitchen playing music?" And he's like, "Oh, I put a little speaker over here."
Oh my god, that's funny. I mean, if something like that happened to me and I turned on the water and the damn music kicked on and I didn't know about it, I would be thinking, "Okay, there's ghosts. I'm out. See ya," but I'm not afraid of the paranormal anyway, but still, if it was somebody else. But the Alexa thing, like, it took me a while to adjust to using some of the technology, that we have out there. But anymore, if it's something that I know will slip my mind, I have to tell that thing to remind me because I forget shit all the time. I'm not even lying. I have to tell like clients, I'm like, if you don't hear from me, I got sidetracked somewhere else. So you're going to have to text me or I'm not going to remember. Even if I write it down, I'm not going to remember. I don't look at the schedule every single day because once you stick to a schedule, then something ends up happening. You know what I mean? It's
Oh,
frustrating.
I'm terrible about it. Like because I have PTSD, I have like you probably see the rings under my eyes. Those don't go away. Like I have severe sleeping issues, and so between the PTSD, the sleeping issues, and the chronic like low back pain and knee pain, they call it the triple whammy. My memory, my short term memory is gone. Like I can remember things that happened when I was 5 years old and did a detail, but there's like 6 month period in Iraq that I just don't remember anything. That like I completely blanked out on that whole 6 months.
Wow.
Um, and it's getting better. Actually, acting has been helping me with that. Trying to memorize my lines. Like I still struggle with it. I have to use little tricks, but it's it's actually been helping my memory get better, and it's helping me with the writing and things. So I do really like I'm getting better about it, but I have like all my notepad right over here off to my left just in case, like during either one of these interviews or just when I'm working on the computer, if I write everything down and I go through a checklist at the end of the night to make sure I don't forget anything. And even then I still miss something here and there.
See, I wasn't in the military, but I was diagnosed with PTSD from some things that happened years ago. And I think, and then raising kids and stuff, it's just like I don't know if I have the memory portion is like a mom memory. You know what I mean? Where your mom remembers. It's like when she's yelling for the kids and you get the wrong damn names. You know what I'm saying? But I have some
Number two,
kids.
front and center.
That's exactly what I tell everybody too. I'm like, I've raised so many kids, I don't even worry about their names anymore. I just gave them all fucking numbers. You know? It is what it is. Number 5, you know?
I joke with my brother about that because he has like 6 kids, and I'm like, man, I'm like, you're making up for me. I'm like, I'm the only one in my family that doesn't have, kids, and I'm like, it's okay. My brother's got enough for everybody. He's
Oh, honey, 8. Not
wow,
not out of this body, it's a blended family, but 8 kids were raised. Not to mention I've raised brothers, sisters, and stuff like that also, you know? So it's just like there's so freaking many of them. You
wow. So we're gonna call you platoon leader.
And I tell you what, I run my house like a drill camp. I'm not even gonna lie about that shit. When you're dealing with 8 kids, yeah, you've gotta be, and people are like, "You're mean." I'm like, "You raised 8 kids and you tell me. Gonna turn out like little freaking assholes, then you tell me." You know what I mean? Hell yeah, Imma put my foot down, put the smack down, you know what I mean?
I'm fortunate. Like when I first got back home, my sister had had her first and only child, my niece Haley, and she's a little fiery redhead even when she was a baby, and she's the only one in the family with red hair. It's kind of funny, We make a lot of mailman jokes, but she was adorable. I came home and she was just this tiny little thing. I'd seen her one time right after she was born, right before I left for Iraq, and when I got home, she was I want to say 2, and she knew who I was because of the photo on the wall, but she didn't know me in person. So
Yeah.
she was kind of shy at first, and we ended up becoming like 2 peas in a pod. And I got to be the funkle, the fun uncle with all the. I got to have all the fun with none of the responsibility, and it was great.
That's freaking hilarious. You said Funkel. I had that conversation when the hell was it? I can't even remember who I was on the phone with, but we were talking about, uncle names. It was something to do we got on a subject about race and about, how the government always tries to play the race card. That was the conversation, but like my kids, the way it is my oldest 2 kids are Hawaiian. My niece she's mixed. My sister-in-law is black. My 2 grandbabies are Mexican. And I'm like, if somebody ever throw that, because the point of that, is my brother, he used to tell my kids to call him Uncle Chink because he's Asian. He is. Like, his grandmother and his mom are Asian. So, and he goes, I'm like, "Don't have them call you that." He goes, "I'm Asian. I can say whatever the fuck I want." I'm like, people are gonna be thinking that we're running some kind of racist campaign here. You know what I mean? I'm like, but race is far from what the hell I am, but we're just gonna it's a joke. So
So it's funny. My
uncle.
buddy Chris is Chinese, and he does the same stuff like that.
Right, you can say whatever the hell you want, but they're so off the rails anymore with the jokes, they'd be offended. But I'm just like, look, I have a little bit of everybody in my family. I'm Cherokee and Apache and Italian, and it's just like we don't care because we don't take it like that. It's not like we're saying stuff to be mean about it. That's just the shit that we say. And if you think that way and you look at the family from the way that we talk, then you just need to get the hell away from my family because this is no room for little crybabies, you know? Seriously.
Oh, I'm bad about it. Like I had that military sense of humor, but I'm like the filming industry, of course, I've had to cut, certain things way back. Like I have to be very careful what we say and do. But like even the one film that Chris came up with it, my Chinese buddy there, he wrote it. He's a martial artist like me and him are great friends. And he was like, "I had this idea. Do you think you could turn it into a movie?" And I was like, "Well, what's the idea?" And he walked me through it. And it's about a Chinese man that runs a Chinese food restaurant right next to an animal shelter. Pets go missing. Local redneck, probably played by me, because I'm bald, and I do a southern draw a lot.
I
And
love it.
naturally, we blame the Chinese guy, and he ends up being the hero. And we had to write this in like, what we do is we direct short comedy films. We're starting this summer, but we
Yeah.
already have, like, the first season scripts. We try to release at least 6 films a year, and we've just started up. Like, I just filed for the LLC. I partnered up with, my friend Victoria Rody, who I've worked with on a film set that I nearly died on, and, my, buddy Chris Chu, the Chinese guy, he worked with me on that set too as one of my stunt guys,
Yeah.
and he saw it. And so I wrote this into a whole story, and it has a comedic ending. Like, it's got a hilarious ending, but the only reason we can get away with it is because Chris
He's
came up with
Chinese. If
it.
it was
And
written by a white guy, you know what I mean? They'd be like, "You racist fuck," you know?
and we one of the things we do, we like doing a lot of, like, post-credit scenes and, like, interviews and stuff. We just have fun nonstop. Everything we do is comedy. We do a lot of it for charity. Like, that episode is gonna be for an animal shelter, to try to raise money for them, and we're actually gonna try to feature some of their dogs, some of their smaller dogs in the film to try to help get them adopted and things like that. So, we try to do a lot of good with everything we do, but, like, that whole ending, like, I don't wanna give it away because we haven't filmed it yet, but
Yeah.
it well, you know what? I'll tell you what. I'll go ahead and let you in on the secret. So everybody's blaming this poor Chinese guy, and he actually ends up finding the dogs. And there's a guy we have that kind of plays our Stanley cameo. He's an older guy, like in his 60s or 70s, and
Yeah.
he is in every episode in the funniest spot I can put him in. And I've worked because the first 5 films I worked on, he was in. Like, everywhere I turn around, there he is. His name's Harvey. And everywhere I turn around, I'm like, "Harvey, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm the villain's driver." And I'm like, because we're all young guys and supposed to look mean and menacing and, henchmen. And I turn around, and there's Harvey sitting there. I'm like, "Harvey, what are you doing in here?" And so he ends up kidnapping these pets to try to make music videos.
Oh my
It's
god.
like, and it turns into a whole drawn out thing. And we actually show the video at the end, and we're going to feature our supporters submitted videos of their pets hauling and barking and carry on. And it's going to be a take on "We Can Dance If We Want to." And it's gonna be like, "We can bork if we want to. We can leave our floof behind, and all your friends can all bork. And if they can't bork, well, then they're probably cats." And it's like, and the whole time it's like dogs just howling and carrying on and having a good time. And, like, they end up throwing him in prison for, like, life for making this video. And
Really?
well, that's part of the humor. Like, they literally stand up and throw the physical, like, law book at, like, even the judge throws the bush at him, literally. And it's
Wow.
all done comedically. Like, this poor guy's the next Hitler. And and all he wants to do is make. He's just an old guy that wanted to make music videos with dogs, but he puts one little clip of a cat in there, and that's, like, apparently what does it. And it's just meant to be
Oh
comedic.
my god. There's this kid that cracks me up. He is a comedian. Well, he might not be a kid. And oh my god, I cannot remember this kid's name to save my life. And I watched his comedy video. And he plays okay, he has a comedy video. I think it's on Paramount. And he sings and he tells the truth. Like the kid is honest, And it's just so funny to watch because he's a younger kid. Well, to me, he's a younger kid, you know, and that generation is so sensitive that they really need to get out of that because they would figure out, I think, that they would enjoy a lot more of life if they would stop worrying about every single thing that comes out of somebody's mouth. You can't do that. You got to have comedy. And just like you said right there with the TV, that thing, that right there is hilarious because everybody they try to, put the Chinese food with the killing of animals and stuff like that. And animals die all the time, period, for food purposes. It's the way we live. We cannot live if we don't have certain things, but that's just funny the way that you've got that set up. And there probably would be people out there saying, "Oh my God," and then not realize, like me. Okay, take for instance the Shattered Dreams movie. I am a white woman who wrote a movie, okay, along with another writer about a black male who went to prison for something he did not do. But I also am very good friends with this man, you know? So when they read that or when the script comes out, I don't want to hear, oh, well, there was racist stuff put in the script and this and that. Because you know what I'm going to tell him? Leslie is the one that fucking told me to put him in there. And if you got a problem, take it up with him. You know what I mean? People worry too much about what people say anymore. And it's irritating because
No,
you don't
there's
know
a
the
lot of
facts,
that.
you
And
know?
it's unfortunate, like, now that I work in the film industry, like, we still have to be certain, we don't wanna bury our brand before we even get started, but we still have to be careful, so we try to do it in a comedic way, and we actually put a disclaimer at the beginning that, yes, sometimes there's stereotyping or whatever in here. That doesn't represent our views, that's just what we're portraying, we're playing characters and roles. So, like, even at the end of that video, me and Chris are gonna sit there doing an interview, and it's gonna be done in such a way that it's kinda like, like my manager Victoria there, my partner, she's gonna be like, "All right," on camera, she's like, "Tell them why we're here," and we're gonna be like, "Making films is a lot of fun," and I'm gonna be like, "But you know what's not fun?" And Chris is gonna be like, "Eating your pets. Don't eat your pets," and
Oh
we're
my
gonna do it like a PSA, but like completely deadpan, and it's hilarious, and we get away with it because if you knew me and Chris, that's just like we have a little bit of a dark sense of humor,
yeah.
but we play it off and we try to do like that episode is for charity. So like we're trying to do something good. And I have friends that do that raise a ton of money for charity and they
Mhm.
have some of the darkest, funniest sense of humor ever. Like one of my buddies, he's a YouTuber and he was doing a video and in the game you try to make drugs and if you screw up like the lab blows up and it's done in like such a comedic manner. And the headline was local D grade YouTuber raises $40,000 cooking meth for kids. And then it was like, and he did. He raised 40 grand. And he's not like one of the big YouTubers. Like he just
Yeah.
has a channel that I enjoy watching. And he's ex-military also, so he has that same kind of sense of humor. But he raises a ton of money for various charities, just having
Eh,
fun playing games and with his dark sense of humor.
how many people thought he was cooking meth?
like I'm sure a few people clicked on that just to see, but like, and it was just the way he wrote it and stuff, and it was hilarious. And it was just him and a few combat veterans, a police officer friend of his, and like, it's so funny there were so many government employees there. But he ended up raising like $40,000 for Toys for Tots or something like that. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
was like just because people were entertained and they and he never asked for a dime. He just puts it up and if you donate, you donate and
Yeah.
he's very big on not shilling and asking for money, but like people donate because he's entertaining and he's hilarious and he puts out content. And even though he doesn't have maybe a million followers, I don't even think he's got that many, but he's certainly not big in terms of YouTube, but he does a lot of good with what he has. And that actually gave me these ideas for these short films. We want everything is comedy based. We want to make people laugh. Like I lost my dad 2 years ago to COVID and it was a really just every way it could have went wrong it did and it was really bad and I was in a really dark place at that point and
Mhm.
there were certain television shows I watched and certain clips that was the only thing that would make me laugh. It would cheer me up for a minute. I could get away from all that misery and I realized that there's a lot of people out there that need those laughs that could use that. And so
Yeah.
we decided we started talking about it and I just come off of like three bad film experiences in a row, like three movies where the sets were like they were just bad. I didn't want to be there anymore. And it wasn't like rough conditions. It was just con men or badly laid out people or people that were lying about things. And it was just stuff like I got two teeth
Mama?
knocked on one film. I'm like because people didn't listen. And finally I was like, okay, I'm done with this. I got equipment that's damaged that was never paid for. We're in the middle of lawsuits with one of these people, like a big class action lawsuit. That was a set I nearly died on. Like I spent 3 days
Were
with
they
like,
short films?
no, no, no. These are professional film sets. Like we actually had
Really?
4K, 6K cameras, but these are people that one guy was a con artist and he actually managed to raise like 50 grand to make this movie. And I suspect he pocketed all the money. because when I showed up there, there was maybe 10 grand in the set and things. And he had some name talent that he brought in, and like, not A-listers, but name talent and stuff that some people might recognize.
This was in Michigan?
No, this is here in Florida. This was in Fort Myers Beach, and I spent 3 days on the beach with nearly no food, no water, no bathrooms, no shelter. And literally, I had severe sunburn. I still have splotches on top of my head and this was like 2 years ago now. I lost 10 pounds on that set and just ran ragged like from day in and night out trying to make things happen and to make it work.
People like that are not professional. I'm gonna
No, we're
tell
in the
you
middle of
that.
suing him.
I'm gonna tell you that right now from experience. They're not professional. They can say they're professional, but they're not professional. And it's people like that that piss me off because I'm gonna tell you a story. I had a prison picked out for this movie that I'm doing. And right before the strike, they went ahead and let the other crew go in and finish because they were allowed to. I don't know if another team had went in after this crew, but one of them two film people cost me the prison because I don't know what they did there at that prison, but they fucked it up for everybody. You know what I mean? And it's bullshit. People need to stop. If they don't know what they're doing, get out. Get out of the business because we all talk and everybody knows, like I say this all the time. Everybody thinks the film industry is a huge business, but it's really not. And it's people like that there's actually code words on real sets for problematic people.
Oh yeah.
People don't know that because, of course, it's a code word. You know what I mean? So people like that don't deserve to be in this industry.
No, and he'd actually worked for a big legit film company, but I think he had a very small part in it. Like he was probably behind the scenes doing something stupid.
They needed to
And
supervise his ass
and
then.
he used that. It wasn't for that company though. This was afterwards. So you could only look into so much on that. We looked him up and it seemed legit. And the guy when we got there was just very clear. Like I'm willing to help directors or people that, you know, don't have all the knowledge but are willing to accept the help. And at first that's what I thought he was. I thought he stepped in a little over his head. But we had people that have worked on major A-list films that were there working under him, and anytime any of us would try to help him out, it was always like he would go into a tantrum and it was his thing. And finally, by the end of the first day, like I tend to see the best of people. And my half my stunt team he pissed off, and I had to keep a couple of them from beating the hell out of this guy. And by the end of that first day, like I sent my stunt team home because we didn't shoot what we were supposed to shoot. Nothing was happening, and it was a whole thing. And there's literally 40 people involved in that class action lawsuit now. And unfortunately, the person that I had hired as an attorney for that deal dropped the ball, and so nothing really has come of it yet. So I either have to get a different attorney or spew out a ton of money for like a professional attorney. I'd worked with this lady before in another film, and she was really interested in it. She expressed great interest. I did a lot of the groundwork for her, but it was like a whole thing. But I mean, he had people that had panic attacks. He had people. I'm amazed we didn't have any heat strokes or heat casualties. We got really close. People almost got electrocuted. Like it was just dangerous every step of the way, and it was a thing. But yeah, he put us in a bad spot for this industry. In fact, the next film I ended up doing was a spoof making fun of that film set. And I actually, even though that didn't end up coming out how I'd hoped it would, and I have my doubts about the integrity of the guy that was in charge of that, it was still kind of fun. And like I had fun. I played myself in a movie for once. It was interesting. And I was still doing fight scenes and things for that. And we came up with some of the funniest stuff. Like we gave this guy comedy gold. And the final product was he shot it in monochrome. It was supposed to be through the eyes of a mosquito, which was I thought he was going to have like a bubble on the outside, like a little disoriented bubble around the outside of the film, but you'd still be able to see the film. The whole thing was in monochrome. You couldn't even tell what was happening. Like I was there filming it, and I was watching it, and I was like, "What am I watching?" And it came out so bad. It was like, "Oh man!" And we put so much effort into that, and we had so many funny scenes that would have been great there, and it just didn't come out.
I'll give you some tips when we go off camera about how you can find out if somebody's legit or not.
I appreciate that.
I'll fill you in because there are ways. There are ways. A lot of people do not realize that, but there are ways that you can find out the truth. You know what I mean? About the people, the company, and but I won't go into that right now. But I mean, it sounds like that whoever that was, do us all a favor and get the fuck out of our industry,
Oh,
please.
he's been pretty much blacklisted. I have a friend that's on the SAG board, and they're aware of it. He's tried to finish that film by casting in Atlanta, Florida, New York, LA, and nobody will work with him.
Do you
Uh,
blame
no, God, not at all. I wouldn't either. Like word got out because he
that?
had actors
Fuck,
from.
and if he had A-listers on that set, then you bet your ass that those A-listers went back and said something to the Screen Actors Guild.
Believe it or not, those name talent guys, like I wouldn't call them A-listers, but they were name talent. He managed to sweet talk them into a large percentage if the film comes out, but that film's never going to see the light of day. There's so many lawsuits that would come out for errors and omissions and things like that that film will never see the light of day. So I tried talking to those people to get them involved because they should have been the ones leading it. They had the most invested in it, and I even talked to the producers. I was like, "Look, this guy took your money, $50,000, and never gave you a product." And it wasn't even like anything that was outside of his control. It was all stuff that could have been within his control. And it was just the guy wasn't who he wanted everybody to think he was. Like he talked a big game. He was a con artist, and I'm pretty sure a lot of that money got pocketed. Like just
Oh, yeah.
I've executive produced a film, and we spent a good chunk of money. Like this wasn't a $2,000-3,000 indie film, and it's actually going to be released on Amazon Prime here in a couple of months. And so we hit distribution, we did all that. We won tons of awards internationally. So like I have some idea of what that kind of film set should look like, and where we filmed and everything. Like the guy kicked us out of the house we were supposed to. Excuse me, we were supposed to stay in because he'd lied to the homeowner out there. So like we didn't have a place to stay. Like literally from the moment I got there at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I wasn't even supposed to do anything until the next day. I just was supposed to get there, get my gear unpacked, like meet up with a couple of my stunt team coordinators that were helping me out. And we were just gonna kind of watch some of the film set, see how things were going, kind of get a feel for some of the actors and what we needed to do
Mhm.
for these fight scenes the next day. Had all the scenes written up, signed off on everything. That night we got kicked out of the house, and I'd been working from 3:30 to 9 just helping on the set, just trying to be nice and friendly and helpful.
I learned my lesson on a set like that. I had, got a role for a movie, well, movie, um, it's not on my IMDb, which is a good thing, but my name still is on their poster, which I'd like to know why, but I don't care because it was one big ordeal. The woman had, and I won't say her name, but she was putting together this movie. It went up. I shot one scene or two scenes with the makeup artist, and we'd stayed. I split a room with the makeup artist. This is when I was first getting into the industry. And this movie was supposed to get a Netflix. Well, the woman, it was a freaking lie. So we couldn't film all of it because it was winter and we were filming outside and the cameras kept dying. So after that, then we go back. It was a couple months later, went back up to start filming more. And the woman, okay, had the audacity to tell me that we're going to have trailers and we're going to handle your accommodations. Never happened. I had to pay for my own room. Okay. We're supposed to have wardrobe and this and that. And oh, if you smoke, don't smoke on the way to set or even on your breaks, you're not allowed to smoke. And I'm just like, who are you, man? First off, this isn't SAG, the Screen Actors Guild. You guys put this together. First off, I'm up here. I drove all the way to Michigan, got my own room. Then I go to set to film, and they're like, "Well, where's your wardrobe?" What the hell do you mean, where's my wardrobe? You all were supposed to, bring that. So I told him, I was like, I don't have the wardrobe, whatever. I'm not going to film. And they're not going to tell me if I can and cannot smoke because I do smoke. You know what I mean? I'm trying to quit, but I still smoke. I'm not going to have somebody tell me what I can and can't do on my breaks. You know what I mean? So I went back to the set and I called a buddy of mine that I work with, and I was like, I'm going to walk away from this film. And that was as soon as I got back. I was already thinking about it the night before. I was like, I'm going to walk away from this because shit just ain't adding up. She was putting out merchandise to do with the movie first. Why are you putting out merchandise? That makes no sense. You're not even doing anything you're doing with the for the movie with the money anyway. So you're just putting shit out to say that you have it. You know what I mean? And when I had called my buddy, he was like, "Yeah, you need to walk." I was like, "Yeah, I almost packed up the night before I even went to set that day because I just knew, like right here. You know what I mean? I knew. And what kills me is my name's still on that poster, and my name better come off that poster if this movie ever does get released. You know, but people wanna lie about shit, and they don't do what they're supposed to be doing with the funding. And if they did what they were supposed to be doing with the funding, the set that that you're on or you were on, that could have been ran a whole hell of a lot differently, because then you woulda had happy people there on the set. You woulda had people wanting to do their jobs, people wanting to come up to show up for your ass. You know what I mean? Instead of screwing those people in the end. And that's exactly what had happened to me, but I was smart enough to leave because I already knew my ass was leaving. I didn't like it from day 1 when I got down there. I just had this weird ass feeling that it was wrong. And I was right because that movie's never seen the light of day.
Yeah, and thankfully a lot of those don't. The
Oh,
funniest thing, like I that's part of the other reason I wanted to do these short films. Like we're gonna do it like a troop, like the Super Troopers guys, the Broken Lizard troop. Same
mhm,
group of people. They'll bring somebody in here or there as needed, but it's mostly the same group of people. And I know they say don't work with your friends, but literally, I'm working with friends that I've met on film sets, guys that I know have no ego, that are good to be around, that are dependable workers, but they still kind of like to laugh and joke. And those are the only people we're bringing in on these. We've got interest from a couple of A-listers, and they're very selective A-listers, people that are notoriously nice folks, that are easy to work with, that are approachable, that are open to certain ideas, and they're good folks. And like those are the only people we're going to be bringing in on these. And the reason we did that is originally it started as just one episode, a Christmas special that I wanted to do, and I told a couple of the guys, my casting crew on my set, and these guys busted up laughing, and they volunteered right then and there to go work on that set just because they wanted to be a part of it.
yeah.
And I started coming up with like all these odd ideas with my weird sense of humor. I Now I have like 45 scripts, I think, like that are in various stages of completion. Like I've already got 7 or 8 of them done, which is enough for our first season. And I'll probably, when I get an extra week here where I'm not doing anything, sit down and start writing up more. But we've got people volunteering to come on board. They don't care if they're paid or not. Like, of course, we're going to try to pay people like as soon as we can. The first one we're probably going to do pretty on the low budget, but after that, we're hoping to, after the first season, we want to switch over to like Patreon, and we're only going to charge like $1, $2 for an entry level thing to get access to the film because we want everybody to be able to afford it.
Yeah.
And we think we can bring in enough quantity of people if we can build our audience fast enough that these things will start funding themselves, and we can start bringing in a little name talent here or there. Like I don't want to overshadow the local guys. We want to work with them. We want everything to grow. We want it to be synergistic for everybody involved. We want everybody on that set, from any sponsors that we may get, any investors, to everything from our production assistant. We want everybody to leave there with a smile on their face, like that was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Like want to go back and work. We want no stress. Of course, you're always going to have little technical stuff, and little issues are going to pop up that you just can't. You have to work when they
Just
happen.
take care of your crew, man. I mean, the reason why I think I fell in love, because when I had got into the industry, well, the movie I did, it was a big movie. It was the first one I had done. And Donnie Brooke, Tim Sutton. Okay, the first night didn't go so well. The night that I was there, it was pouring down rain. Nothing really got done. Everything got soaked. All the mud and everything out there in the fields. Oh my god, it was horrible. I'm just glad I didn't ride my motorcycle because really they wanted bikes out there, and I was gonna take my motorcycle out there. Um, and we were in the cold for 3 nights. I mean, I was out there shorts, tank top, all of that. And Tim that night, that's what I remember is Tim. and he directed it. For people who don't know who Tim Sutton is, he's the one who directed The Dark Knight, okay? The one that Heath Ledger was in. And he come into the room, and I was an extra, and he was like, "Hi, you guys. I'm Tim. Thank you all for being here. And are you all ready to make the best fucking movie ever?" And I'm just like, "Damn, dude, I love his energy." You know what I'm saying? Like, he is fucking awesome. And it didn't even dawn on me about him being the director for the Dark Knight. And I'm just like, man, okay. So we go out and we're filled. I've got these boots on, right, and these shorts, and stinking in the freaking mud. You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking about sinking in the mud. It was horrible, but it was so much fun. I did not give a shit because I'm one of them girls where I am down for whatever. You know what I mean? I just don't care. So we go, and he playing Metallica. You know, they had the speaker system set up in the cage fight where they did the cage fight at the end of the Donnybrook. So they're playing Metallica, they're jamming. I'm like, hell yeah, and then we go into the other night where they're doing the national anthem, and I was actually asked to sing that anthem because they got wind that I have sang with people, which they approached me, and I was just like, okay, how's it going to go down? And I just I've got my thing with the military where I thought the way it was saying, I love, the movie, but the way that they wanted me to sing it, I just did not feel right myself about singing it that way. So I kind of declined singing the anthem in that movie. But you got to be energetic. You got to have a fun energy when you're filming. And people like that, they ruin, not Tim. I'm talking about the people that you were with. They ruin it. Like him, look at the picture he did, The Dark Knight. People are gonna know that forever, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
And I really wish a lot more people knew about the Donnybrook movie. And because I've seen reviews and stuff like that because I peeped it all out. But you've got to have that kind of energy because if you go in, y- you're going to push everybody away. You know what I'm saying? And it's just going to be a shitty situation or a shitty deal for everybody if you don't know how to handle the people that you work with. You know,
Absolutely.
and people, they don't get it. But I think him and his energy, and then the fun that we had, even though I was freezing my ass off, and the people I met, because you know how when you're an extra, you're in the holding areas and whatever, and you're meeting people and networking, and you also don't know who you're working with because there can be people that you're thinking are an extra, and they're like way at the top, way at the top, and they talk, but it was that whole energy, I think, that kind of drew me in to wanting to just, because I ran a business while I was doing, while I was getting into the industry. I halted that whole business that I ran for 13 years to jump for full force into this one. You know what I mean? So if you don't have a fun energy and you're not a real person, not human like, you know what I mean, but real, then, you know, it's just not going to be much fun, you
Well, the
know?
thing is, you can have fun in just about any, even bad situations, if you're with the right people.
Yeah.
Motivation is key. That's where I met my current business partner, Victoria. We both had terrible experiences on that film in different ways, and she ended up staying for the full week. Like I was only supposed to be there one day, and ended up being there for 3.
Hmm.
And it was like a whole mess. And I should have listened to a friend. A friend warned me to walk away from that film, but I'd already given my word. And I'm a soldier. I mean, veteran. My word is everything to me. Once I've given somebody my word, I will suck it up and see it through to the end, if at all possible. But I'm getting to the point now where certain times you just have to walk away. And that's the thing. And like I had other people there that were relying on me. If it was just me, I would have walked away right at the beginning,
Yeah.
after things started going south. But because I had my entire stunt team there, and as long as any one of those guys was there, I needed to be there. So he managed to sucker 2 of my guys, he wouldn't talk to them without asking me, to stay for another day and promised he would shoot them first thing in the morning, which never happened. We ended up kidnapping one of his camera guys and went up the road and shot the fight scene ourselves just so it'd
That's
be
a
done over.
metaphor. He didn't really mean he kidnapped them people.
No, no. We just grabbed one of his camera guys. We're like, "Hey, we need to borrow you for a minute. Come with us." And, we kinda, like, we sort of guerrilla warfare filmed that one, but it was funny. We grabbed, and his one of the stunt people there, she would actually work for, like, Super Troopers, one of the Super Troopers films, I think the second
The
one.
movie's fucking hilarious.
And oh, she's a trip, and she actually lives right up the road here from me. I never knew she literally lives like the next little town over, and so we're still good friends. So I made a lot of really good friends. In
Yeah,
fact, one of the guys I met on that set that worked as my stunt team ended up helping me rehab my knee because I could only do so much through the VA. I don't have any external insurance or anything, so I'm stuck with the VA, and they weren't doing anything. And this guy, he was a martial artist too, so me and him hit it off, and, like, my whole team, they all love each other, like, my stunt team, they were all great folks, and he got me down into this little gym because he lives right up the road, and I started going in there, and he had me doing these knees over toes, and I'd tried them before and never really had luck. He did a modified version of it, and I started getting strength back in my legs where I can crouch a little bit, I can do things, and he did something the VA didn't even do. Like,
yeah,
all the physical therapy I went through, none of it fixed anything, and he helped me. And so now those guys are working with me on these upcoming films. Like, wherever I've got a good place for these guys where they fit, we bring them in. And it's a ton of fun, but we assembled kind of a team based off of even just these bad movies, the 3 bad ones that we've had. I've still met somebody on each one of those times that I would love to work with in the future that are very talented in one area or another that we're happy to bring in, or that, they fit the role perfectly. And I'm blessed that, like, between Chris and Rachel, 2 of my assistant, fight coordinators, everybody loves those guys. They're like, anybody that meets them positively loves them. And so it works out really well. We have such a wonderful team that everybody gets along and everybody's easy to work with and works together and listens. And I think if we can translate it, to our own films, we're going to be having a great time. We're going
yeah.
to be making people laugh while we do it. We're going to be raising money for charities. The first one is supposed to shoot this summer. We're still getting the groundwork laid on the business a little bit, business cards, channels, things like that. Then we have to go have a meeting with the location that we want to shoot at. If they're good, then it's just waiting to get my crew assembled here this summer, and we'll release it. It's a Valentine's Day special. It's called Cupid's Chokehold. The tagline is "Love Hurts," and it's hilarious. And we're involving Benji Neptune, who is a professional wrestling champion down here at the WWE, which is he's the one I'll probably be working with on my match. He's going to be one of the leads in there. My friend Rachel, who's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, she's going to be one of the leads. We're doing that kind of as a gift to her and her daughter. Rachel has some terminal health issues. So she wanted something to be able to leave her daughter. So we're going to make her the star of that one. And it's right up her alley. She's perfect for it.
Yeah.
So we're
Good.
gonna we're gonna try to raise awareness for her terminal disease while we're at it because it's one that I hadn't even heard of. Like, even right now, I couldn't rattle off the name of it. I have it written down, but she doesn't have a lot of time left. So we want to shoot that our first one for her,
Yeah.
and we'll make sure she gets a copy of it even before we release it. Public. We're gonna hold off till Valentine's Day as a
Yeah.
scheduling thing, but we want to help everybody involved, and we want everybody to have a great time. And I don't see any reason why we can't. I've worked on sets that were unnecessarily stressful for no reason. Like, it's one thing we all get. Sometimes you're out in the hot summer, you're in a 100-degree air, you're sweating your butt off, you're getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. Like, I'm okay with that stuff. Like, if there's a way we can prevent it, great. But if not, we'll suck it up and do it if that's what we need to do.
A
But
lot
if
of
you're just
people are
creating,
afraid to walk away from certain situations in movies. And I think what it is they're afraid when they know something's not right. They're afraid that if they walk away from that movie or that short film or a potential small series or whatever, that it's going to ruin their career. And 9 times out of 10, it will not, because if something feels off or things aren't ran a certain way and you're smart and you know that they're not doing what they need to do, then do what go with your gut. If something feels not right to you, then please go with your gut because it's telling you to do that for a specific reason, you know? And I just people they need to stop being so afraid. I mean, sometimes things do happen, but if you feel like it's off when you're first starting your project, then go with your gut. Please. I did. You wish you would have, but now that person's ending up being sued, you know what I mean? And you've got your other series that you're coming out with, and all of these people or some of these people were on that same set with you, you know. And you just if it feels off, go do the right thing, leave because you know already something's going to happen. It's not going to ruin your career. People do understand that there are people out there that don't really know what they're doing, you know, or
Yeah.
not being supervised while they're doing it, which that if it was a bigger portion of the movie, they really should have brought in somebody like me, because I would have been on their ass like, hey, but I love my crew. So everybody I have involved with me and everybody that I'm met with, talking to as far, they're my peeps. That's just the way it is. And yeah, the film industry is a little clicky. It
Okay.
is. But that's only because when you're used to working with people and you know that they're going to work and that they're going to go hard for you and they're going to do what they need to do and they've got their awesome ass visions, then you want to work with them same people and you're kind of reluctant to let outsiders come in and mess up that potential, click that you got going on. But it's not because we don't want to let outsiders into our group. It's because we're so used to talking and the stuff that we're doing, you know what I mean? And because you got your click, and that's just it's not we're not trying to do that, but we have to have those people that we know we can rely on, that we know we can count on. Just like when I've booked some of these segments and you all seen that I put up on Facebook, don't stand me up when I put you on a segment because it's like standing somebody up on a date. And believe me, I'm that woman to where you're not getting another shot with me. I ain't ever been stood up. Sorry for those that have. But if that ever would have happened to me, they ain't getting no second shot. That's it. It's done.
I think what tends to happen, and like I can speak to this early on. Like my very first film was a no budget zombie series. Like I was going to show up, rattle off. I was just happy that I had a couple of lines. And it was a friend that'd been in the acting industry for a while is the one that helped teach me how to submit and how to get those roles and how to get my foot in the door. And like I have a friend who's worked with major A-list stars, worked with Nicolas Cage, whatnot, and he's one of my martial arts teachers and he's my mentor. And even he never really taught me how to get my foot in the door.
Yeah.
Like maybe he didn't know himself. Maybe he got in a specific way, or just based. I mean, the man had such physical talent. I'm sure people were beating down his door. For me, it was different. So, like, but my other buddy taught me, and I went, and it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was a bad experience. It was an okay experience. I liked working for the director. I still work for him to this day. He's a very sweet man. Um, the quality of the work wasn't quite there, but it was still a fun learning experience. And it was my first set. I didn't care. I was just happy that I had lines. And what I learned was when I got there, I did better than probably like, and this was like an honest assessment. I showed a few friends the clips and stuff, and they said about the same thing without me saying a word. They're like, "Yeah, you did better than all but maybe a couple of the people." And I was like, considering that was my first day on set, I was thrilled with that. I was like, "Hey, great! I'm not the worst one here. I didn't booger up my lines, but maybe once. I'm like, okay, I'm good." And I learned how a set works, and I had fun. And I went on to do the next one and the next one. And then as I started getting into the bad ones, now I'm not afraid to walk away. I'll try to work for everybody at least once, unless there's something like I'll deal with certain amounts of discomfort. I mean, we all will. I've done sets where I'm like getting bit by spiders or rolling through red ant hills or
That's
whatever.
on every side. You never know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
You're gonna get certain.
but I
Yeah.
mean, not all sets are perfect. You're always gonna have the ups, the downs, blah blah blah. But I mean, you can tell in your heart somebody, especially the low budget stuff, if it's not right. You can. And I mean, another thing I always push is training, acting. If you're new, you want to get your foot in the door, take some classes because if you're taking classes with the person who's teaching acting. Obviously, they know how to get your foot in that door. Listen, because they can help you, period. That's just the way it is. And that's with any job. You want to make it there, you've got to train. That would be like going to McDonald's and getting a job and just passing out cheeseburgers, but not knowing how to make them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You've got to have that training. You
Well, and
have
that training is important because it shows you're willing to invest in your career. It shows that you're serious about doing this. Like I've got a lot of friends that have never had an acting class, and they're good actors. They're very talented. But it when you go for these bigger projects, people are going to look like, hey, who's he trained under? Has he had training? Even me, like I've had stunt training and stuff, but my acting career, I'm still working on getting financially caught up from my dad passing, so that I can go out and get some acting classes. But that is one of the things on my list right now that I
there
want.
are big I mean, the people that think that, just because they come in and they got the following or whatever, that they're going to make it on these sets. I'm sorry. There are producers that still take classes. Like Matt Damon, he trains. He has an acting coach. He's been in some of the best movies I've ever seen, like The Martian. You know what I mean? I love that movie. It's awesome.
Oh yeah,
And everybody thinks, he's also producing. And I don't know, I'm not sure if he's directing or not. I don't know. But still training. One of words, still training. Just because you've made it to the top does not mean that there is still not room for you to learn. Because trust me, there's always in this industry something to learn. And training is key and that is important. And you can't, I mean, some people do get the onset training. They do. But you still have to know how to use it. So you really need to at least take some acting classes or read some damn books. You know what I mean? That's
absolutely.
you got to learn. I mean, everything is a learning curve. Everything. And it doesn't matter what industry. I mean, just look at the military. You guys wouldn't know how to fire them weapons if they didn't take you out, to train you,
Yeah,
you know?
I never fired a weapon a day in my life till I joined the army.
I mean, that's just the way it is. And there are some good things coming out. Like, there's a friend, well, actually, he's coming on to this picture also, and he started this organization, and I'm pretty sure I think he lives in Atlanta. Yeah, he does live in Atlanta. Um, and it's called Onset Soldiers. And what that does is it takes soldiers, veterans, you know what I mean? And what they do is they bring them in and they assess them. Like, say a bunch of soldiers come in, they just want to do acting. Okay. What they do is they're going to go and they're going to assess that person, would this person fit lighting? Or would this person, be good in stunts? What are their strengths? And then they get you onto the bigger sets once they have you assessed. So you can be, who knows, acting with huge stars, or you can be at least in the on the picture, doing other things, because there are so many departments in the movie industry. And it is awesome. It's an awesome thing for soldiers. It really is. Because a lot of soldiers don't know what to do. And a lot of soldiers do make good actors. They make great actors because they are disciplined. They're not the, "Oh, feel sorry for me" type person, or the, "Oh, I just don't get it" type person, because they have the discipline and the training to where they are smart enough, you know, to do what they need to do the damn job.
Oh
Where
yeah, we're driven to complete the mission.
exactly.
That's what sees me through every one of these films, even when I nearly got died on. It's like, okay, this isn't the first time I've nearly died. I've been hit by mortar rounds. I've been shot at. I mean, once you survive stuff like that, the worst day you could have in film work is usually a piece of cake.
Probably one of the
It's
best
it's a
days.
slow Tuesday for us,
I
like
know.
shy of somebody dying on set, you're good. There's nothing that's happening that's
Yeah, I mean, like
that
my son,
pierces.
he made it to because he's stationed in Fort Hood right now, but he made it to specialist, or he is a specialist. And it's funny because I mess with him all the time, because I remember when, he first enlisted, they have this thing in the army, it's called, for people who aren't soldiers, they smoke you.
Mm.
So if your ass gets in trouble, you're gonna get smoked. And my son got smoked frequently, okay, back when he first joined the army. And now he's doing it to people himself because sergeant, you know what I mean? So it's just like I tell him all the time I'll mess with him because he was picking, well, I called it picking on him, but I know it's part of the military, and he was doing it while he was on the phone with me. And I told him, I was like, don't do that to that poor kid. You know what I mean? Well, they had to do it to me. I got to do it to them. I'm like, dude, I had to come there and smack your ass right now because I got to do it. I'm like, I felt so bad because I already know shit was about to go down for that poor guy. But I mean, you know what smoking is, getting smoked,
Oh yeah.
you know?
Yeah, yeah, that was part of our living. See, I was a proud member of that thing known as the E4 Mafia.
Oh God.
I, yep, crap rolled downhill and we were almost at the bottom. So it was just get it done. I don't care how. I've literally rebuilt trucks from scratch, like stuff that we're not supposed to do at our level of work. And like I built two Humvees from two blown up Humvees that like literally we started with frame rails and I assembled two whole trucks out of those things. It took me like 6 months to do it to get all the parts in, but we did so many things that we weren't really supposed to be doing. I was doing my second tour, I was welding things on the truck, doing vehicular modifications that we weren't supposed to be doing. Just, doing what a soldier does. We solve problems.
Yeah.
And I'm a mechanic, so like by trade, I've worked in drag racing. I was a professional drag racer. Like we make things work. And even something as simple as like suspension modifications to get a Humvee to live longer because they were bottoming out and tearing up suspensions and stuff as they got heavier throughout the years. Like stuff that was problems the first tour was like the exact opposite of the problems by the time we got in the second tour because we
Yeah,
had
you've
armor
already
finally.
been there. So you learned while you were there. So it was easier going back in.
Well, and everything changed. Like our trucks were up armored now, so they're 2,000 pounds heavier, and those were already kind of vehicles that were a little overweight. So
Yeah.
now they're tearing up suspensions instead of motors and transmissions. You're replacing suspensions and differentials and brakes and tires. And like we just learned what can we do to make this stuff live longer, what can we do to make things easier for our infantry guys, that are out there rolling nonstop 24/7. Like these guys don't have all the time in the world to do maintenance on the trucks. So if we can reduce that, it makes life easier on them, which helps them with their missions. And it just gets everything going, makes everything so much better.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of that. And we're not supposed to do that stuff.
Let
Like
me ask you a question. This is something I've asked my son, but he lives off in his own world. So, okay, you went from army, and you're gonna know what I'm talking about, to reserve. Okay,
National Guard, yeah.
yeah. And the word pogue.
So a pogue is somebody that never leaves the base. Basically, the other nickname for it is like or a pogue. I'm sorry, pogue is somebody that is anything other than infantry. I was thinking fob, fobbit.
Well, they only say that to the people who are basically reserve or National Guard, or you know what I
So
mean?
they call them nasty girls. There's a bunch of because of the one weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, and I mean I even razzed them a little bit for it when I was there. Like one of my sergeants got into it with me, and he was like, "Man, I outrank you," and I was like, "Yeah, but I have more time active duty than you." I was like, "I have 4 years of active duty. You've got let me see, one weekend a month too." And I'm like sitting here doing the math in front of him, and he just kind of stared at me. And it was only because I knew him and we were good enough friends so I could get away with it. But
It happened to you though once you joined the National Guard, or
oh, a few people would look at me and be like,
yeah,
"Oh, look, it's a nasty girl," and I'd be like, "Dude, I did more time in active duty than you have." you know, I like because they didn't realize I come from active army. I did notice there was a big difference in the military bearing, and
yeah,
that took me 2 or 3 months to get used to. And in fact, I mean, it was so funny when I went back in the second time. They hadn't come out with the new ACUs yet, the gray uniforms. We were still in desert tans, and they were just starting to develop ACUs when I got out in 2006. So I had my old desert tan uniform because that was the last thing I was issued. And we were going back to Iraq. I didn't even know the ACUs had become a thing. So I'm walking around the only guy on base in desert combat uniform. Everybody else is like I stood out like a sore thumb. And I'd never been to this training place before. So I had no idea where I'm going. There's no maps. I'm trying to find a building number out. You just see me wandering aimlessly back and forth, and somebody be like, Sherwood. And I didn't know hardly any of the people yet because it takes me a while to get to remember everybody. And I'd be like, yeah. And they'd be like, what building are you looking for? 115. We're yelling back and forth across like half this base. And he's like, 2 buildings over to your left. Thank you. And it was only because I stood out. And then, but we'd mess with people. We'd get guys come up like, why are you wearing desert combat uniforms? But where the hell did they find you? I feel like this is the last uniform I was issued. And this one colonel, he's like, where'd they find you? And I was like, oh, I got left in Iraq. And he's like, what? And he was like, how long were you there? I was like, let's see, I went in 05. And this was like 2008, and he was like, you got left there for 4 years? I just messed with people. And it was like the first tour, we were stationed in Tikrit, and we get rocket attacked twice a night, every night.
Yeah.
So I couldn't sleep because I had severe issues. I was already developing PTSD, and I couldn't sleep at night. They couldn't give me medication for it. So I literally slept like 2 hours every other night on average.
Wow.
And I did that for a year straight. And by the time I was done, my brain was so cooked. I was so like I could just barely do my job. I would sit down, lay out my tools on a Humvee, because once you've done the job, there's 4 different types of brackets. Once you know which one you're working on, you know exactly what you need to take off, exactly what size everything is, because you do it over and over again, repetition. So I would lay my tools out on this collar or the roof of the Humvee, close my eyes, and I would work in that truck for 4 or 5 hours with my eyes shut. And one time a colonel came in and thought I was sleeping, and he went over to yell at me, but I was like literally taking bolts off and taking parts off and swapping them out. And he's like, is he fixing trucks in his sleep? So I'd fake snore, and like let my head dip a little. And like I mess with these people because what else you get? Like I don't know. I was just so cooked from the sun and the lack of
He's
sleep.
driving that damn truck.
And well, he asked me, he goes, how many of his trucks come back for re-repairs? And they're like, none. He's never had one come back for a repair. Because I was a mechanic before I went in the Army. This is what I've been doing since I was 15.
Yeah.
So I'd already had like 5-6 years of experience at that point. So I was already ahead of most of the folks in the Army. And in even Army training, it's not like real mechanic training. It's just enough for you to be able to slam parts, do what you need to do.
And
You don't
get
have
out.
to diagnose anything. They just tell you, hey, change the transmission. You're not sitting there trying to figure it out. Like I routinely got into arguments with a guy that was in charge of that stuff, and I diagnosed stuff more properly than he did. But they don't want to hear it. They're a sergeant. They're just telling you what to do. So you change the part, and sure enough, it doesn't fix the issue. And you're like, all right, I'm gonna go change the part that I wanted to change. And sure enough, it fixes the issue. And it was routine, but I enjoyed messing with those folks like quite a bit. Like,
Funny as hell, man. Oh my god.
just the Army humor.
I know. I've heard so much of it. Okay, so I'm gonna have you stay on. I'm going to definitely say thank you for your service, and we are gonna tell everybody thank you for watching, and see you soon.
Thank you. Take it easy.
It's time to strap our boots on. This is a perfect day to die. Wipe the blood out of our eyes. In this life there's no surrender, and there's nothing left for us to do. Find the strength to see this through. We are the ones who will never be broken. With our final breath, we'll fight to the death. We are soldiers, we are soldiers. to shoulder. We stand shoulder to shoulder. We stand shoulder to shoulder. You can't erase us, you'll just have to face us. We stand shoulder to shoulder. We stand shoulder to shoulder. We stand shoulder to shoulder. You can't erase us, you'll just have to face us. We are the ones who will never be broken. With our final breath, we'll fight to the death. We are soldiers. We are soldiers. We are the ones who will not go unspoken. No, we will not sleep. We are not cheap. We are soldiers. We are
She'd be singing out landslide while she's staring at the sunset oceanside, dreaming of the places she could go, wondering if there's more than what she knows, looking out for more life. Spread herself around now just for spite. Fate is never fair and life is rough. No amount of time could be enough. This town's no place for a fallen angel. Who are we to hold you down? Miss having you catching up.